Hatep. Welcome to question and answer classes with student teachers of Pt.1, aka Malachi, Kobe, New York. Our job and our mission is to teach you about Wu-nuwaup, sound right reasoning, right knowledge, right wisdom, and right understanding. I believe it's sound right reasoning. And what we do is these classes are established to answer your questions pertaining to our doctrine, everything under, everything pertaining to religion, religion, culture, sciences. So, this information has been around for a long time that our master teacher, Pt.1, have been teaching for years, who have been falsely imprisoned, incarcerated, and the belly of the beast for the last 11 years. So if you got any questions, I know you'll be studying, you can ask any question you want because this is what we do. Okay, you been reading for a minute now, man? You been studying? You don't know? Oh, this is a lesson. How about you, my sis? You been studying lately?
A little bit.
What you been reading?
I got the book, The Potential, and I got the book, The Mind.
Yeah, the mind book and your potential.
Mm-hmm.
How did you feel about it, since you've been reading?
I think it's pretty good. I learned that the soul is made of water,
Mm-hmm.
the spirit is made of gas, and it's talking about how to eat right
Yeah,
and get enough rest,
yes.
stuff like that.
Yeah, those two books right there, our master wrote back in 1967, 63, which is the mind book. Back then it was called The Mechanics of the Mind. This is why you see people like Earl Nightingale and what's that good woman name? Gabriel Burns. They have put out their own books called The Stranger's Secret, which the master teacher put out also too. And a book called The Secret. But what happened is these are what you call self-help book, positive thinking, visualization, which you put out in the universe, come back to you. You feel me? But a lot of these authors that they plagiarize a lot of stuff from our master teacher. And the information that they're putting in these books, you can find these information on the walls of Egypt under one of our great masters named Tahuti, as thought, which is the that deity right there.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? He was the sacred, the word Tahuti means sacred, sacred words. And when they took our deity of one of our ancestors and brought it into what you call Greece, they changed the name and called him Hermes. And this is where you get a lot of things called the Hermetic sciences or the Kabbalion. You know what I'm saying? Where it talks about this, visualization, your potential, how you can make certain things manifest by positive thinking and by, positive, living, stuff like that. And it's always visualizing. This was ancient sciences that we have in a book that my master teacher wrote called The Sacred Wisdom, which is actually the rightful translation of what the Kabbalion was trying to do. Because the Kabbalion actually is a little bit more watered down because they put a lot of commentaries, a lot of this, a lot of that, and they only give you a portion of the true essence of what the book was trying to, relate to people. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So this is what our master teacher is doing. This is what happened is that in order for us as a people to evolve back into our original state, he had to put out a series of books to break you out of the spells that they had to put you in to change your DNA, your mentality, physically, mentally, spiritually. It's like this, like I said before, like through our master teacher, being taught by my master teacher, is that a lot of stuff that we do now here in America is not African orientated. We do things the way Europeans do things now. So it's kind of hard to give you an African culture when you won't accept it because you'll reject it because you're practicing someone else's fake nature as of dealing with your own natural nature. You feel me? So what he does is he put these books out to break you out of the spell of the Christians, the spell of Jews in the Muslims, what you call the spell of Leviathan in your Bible, that we call in ancient times the spell of Apophis. You feel me? So after you get past the spell stage of breaking the spells, right? Then you're in the state of, okay, now what do we do for him? This is with a book like the Mind Book, Your Potential, Patrax. You know what I'm saying? Or, in a lot of that stuff that's in the ancient Egyptian order is with to help you and to help flourish your inner being so you become a deity again. Or what they call in the Bible, God in the flesh. You feel me?
Right.
So, yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was wondering when you said that the God Tahuti is the God of words.
No, it says sacred words. His name Tahuti means sacred words.
Okay.
Yeah.
But does he deal with manifestation of material things too, or just only words? Strictly words?
In the beginning, God said, let there, in the beginning, God said, that, what was that? What's that, John? Chapter, what's that, John? In the beginning, huh?
1 verse.
Yeah, it says, in the beginning, the word, what was it? I said it so many times, so many years. But I'm sure we're here.
In the beginning.
In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. And the same was in the beginning with God, as all things were made by Him, and without Him was not anything that was made. In Him was life, and the life was the light of all men. And the light shines in the darkness, and darkness comprehended not. Now, this quote is an ancient quote from ancient Egypt, from the hierophant or the master teacher at their day and time that was called Har, or you know as Jesus Christ. You know what I'm saying? Yeshua el Messiah. You know what I mean? And what happened is, a lot of people don't understand that he was raised in Egypt. You know what I'm saying? So in the beginning was the Word was with God, the Word of God, right? And all things were made, right? Meaning that, like you said earlier, the Word, and it manifested as what? Something material. The sound, what you call kul fire kun, in the old Ansar doctrine that we would say kul fire kun, exist and let it be exist. You feel me? The Word is what calls the first spark of life to come into existence. The Word, what you call Om, or you know what I'm saying, or the sound of the universe. And then physical things start to manifest it from the etheric plane into the physical plane. You feel what I'm saying? So this is what this great hierophant or master was teaching in his ancient time, Suhuti, is that when you start manifesting sound, tones, vibration, DNA, and frequencies, you're able to tap into different things, but you can actually make things manifest in the physical form. In ancient Egypt, we call that alchemy. You know what I'm saying? In the Bible, they call it transfiguration. But it's the same thing, to change one thing into something else. This is why the two prophets that's most predominant in your Bible were raised in Egypt. Moses was raised as an infant in Egypt to the age of 40, where he got his so-called calling from God. And then when he got with God, he was able to make certain things, like sticks turn into snakes, water turn into blood, you know, locusts and so on, right? Then you look at the other prophet in his day and time in the New Testament will be Jesus. He was born in Jerusalem, but they had to take him out of Jerusalem and hide him in Egypt. And then when he comes back, he's doing transfiguration and transmutation of changing one object into the other. You know, multiplying bread, turning fish, water into wine, and so on. You know, taking mud, spitting on it, and able to heal people. This is ancient Egyptian alchemy. You know what I'm saying? But the Caucasian, because he doesn't like Egypt and he doesn't like what we represent, because he knows that their doctrine comes from us, they call this dark magic, wickedness, sorcery. You feel me? But like I said before, like through our master teacher, Pt. Babylon, the devil had made evil fear seeming. So when he made evil good, then he made good evil. So when you're dealing with religious doctrines like the Quran, the Torah, and the Bible, these books goes against African, Egyptian sciences and says it's devil worship. Because you're outside of your natural nature, and now you're practicing their religious natures. You feel what I'm saying? So that's the question that answers that right there about, you know, how to make things manifest. And we were able to do this in ancient times when we needed certain things, and we were able to make it manifest through ancient tones and vibration and frequencies. You feel what I'm saying?
Is there anything that can make it happen quicker? That can speed up the manifestation? Is it like a certain way to speak, or a certain type of tone that you need to use?
Yeah, it is a certain type of tone, but you're not going to be able to do that in the state of mind that you're in right now. Meaning that if I told you, who's your favorite rapper?
I don't really listen.
Oh, well, it got to be somebody that you like. You got to be favorite with somebody that you. Okay, who's your most? What rapper you despise that you don't have no respect for and is totally turned off by?
Lil Wayne.
Okay, watch this. If I told you, I'm gonna give you the science to the universe on how to levitate, walk the walls, and make things manifest, right? And I said you had to teach it to Lil Wayne. What would you do? No, if I said teach Lil Wayne.
I don't know.
Be honest, though. Be honest. Don't. Just be honest. You'll give me a problem with that. Would it be a problem? Why?
Because I don't think he would get it.
Why?
Because he's ignorant,
Uh-huh.
and he has like his state of mind isn't really where it needs to be to understand anything like that.
Say that last sentence.
His state of mind isn't where it needs to be to understand anything.
she said his state of mind is not where it needs to be, where he is at right now, right? So this is why you can't get these higher sciences right now, because your state of mind ain't there yet. You know what I'm saying? Now, a possibility could happen that little Wayne can actually change and better himself. Then you'll be like, oh, I just never saw that coming. You feel me? But this is how our ancestors look at us. We all are these little Waynes. There's some people are just worse than others. You feel me? But to use that example is that you see the worst of the worst. You know what I'm saying? But they don't see it that way. They say you're all in together because you're all unified. You know what I'm saying? It ain't about a single individual, it's about all of you. You hear me? So our master teacher, being who he is, a doctor, and the doctor's job is to what? Cure you, right? Of these poisons and sicknesses that have been manifested and permeating in your being for so many years. You hear me? So his job is to diagnose you. Okay, you have a bad case of Christism, and you got a bad case of Mohammedanism, and you got a bad case of Judaism, and I have the medicine, right? But I have to take a small portion of poison, right, to put in you so your body can become immune to that little bit of poison so you can build up antibodies. You hear me? Because if we did, like our master teacher said years ago, if I don't come from your book, then you say, well, you can't attack that because it's true. You hear me? So he had to use your book, because that's what you're used to, right? This is malaria. And he takes the what you call Wu-nuwaup, and he takes the little pieces of malaria and mixes it in Wu-nuwaup and gets it to you, right? And you're like, okay, I now understand what you're saying. You hear me? Then after a while, when you start becoming immune to the virus of malaria, you know what I'm saying? Then the first thing you say to your mind, oh, this book is a bunch of lies. This is nothing but a big giant bottle of poison. You hear me? So you put it down. But now you realize that now each one teach one. Now you got to help your next brother and sister out that's in the same bad state. You feel what I'm saying? And this is why you're not able to use these higher senses, because it's like you're giving a shotgun to a 4-year-old who plays with water guns. The first thing he's going to do is pull the trigger. He's not going to ask whether these bullets are real or not. All he knows is that what he sees on TV or what he's been taught is to pull the trigger, squeeze the trigger, right or wrong. You know what I'm saying? And this is the reason why we're not able to use these gifts, because of the way our mind state is. You feel what I'm saying? Because people are still under person, places, and things, and people are still slaves to their inner emotions. Well, I think we should be like this. Well, I think you should that. Well, I think, how can I give you that power and you can't even control your own emotions? You feel me?
Right.
Yeah. So this is what our master teacher has been doing for years. And it's so simple. But what happened is we under that thing called, I do what I want to do. I don't have to listen to you. I'm a grown man. You feel me? And it's kind of hard to talk to our people now because they actually think they're cool with the white man. The white men don't care nothing about them. They say, well, not all white people are bad. But how do you know if you haven't been in contact with all white people? Because if you watch the news, they just shot a teenager. How old is she, about 19? The girl walked, her car broke down, and she just walked to knock on the door, and the guy shot her. And they justified, saying, stand your ground. I was scared. It was one of those bad black people, and I thought they was going to kill me, right? They could have pulled it back off 20 years ago, but you got to look at our mind state. Look how our people act. We sag. We got tattoos. We got piercings. You hear me? You got, the clothes. He might not be a bad person. This guy could be a straight A student, right? But he's caught up in the fashion. And the fashion dictates that if you want to be cool, if you want to get these girls, you got to dress like this. Because if you don't, I'm going to call you a lame. Right? So these guys do this, and you don't know who's the real and who's not. Because you got a lot of fake thugs out there. But you still got some real ones too. And you don't know which one. Even us as black people don't even know the difference between the thugs or the fake ones until they open their mouth. Because when you see the guys from a distance, like, okay, I got to watch myself. Now you're doing what the white people do back in the day. You're pushing the locks down and you're covering your whole your bag, right? You hear me? But then when you get up to him, as soon as the guy opens his mouth, oh, this guy's a nerd. Then you're at ease again because they have the appearance. But when you start hearing them, it's a certain, as black people in America, we know our tribe better than anybody. You know what I'm saying? and we know the stuff they say will come out their mouth. So when these guys start running their mouth, you say, okay, this nigga is lame. You know what I'm talking about, right? You know what I'm saying? He's a cornball. He can't be that hard. You seriously, he's just perpetrating. So how long you been reading now?
The 2 books that I have?
Yeah.
I had it for about a month, and I just got the one called Your Potential like last week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you applied it?
A little bit.
Yeah.
I haven't finished reading either of them. So.
Oh, okay. Yeah. And with that, I'd like to pass the class over to my brother, Wu-nuwaupu Sanan Ature.
Hatep. All right, my name is Wu-nuwaupu Sanan Atumreye. I am a student of the master teacher, Dr. Malachi Kobina Zodat York, being incarnated in this day and time to help those Africans, especially us here in the West, who've gone astray and been influenced by foreign religions such as Christianity, Judaism, Islam. And I'm here to do my best to answer any questions that you may have. One thing we have to realize is that we are Africans, right? Everyone agree with that? African descent,
Sure.
somewhere along the line there, right?
Sure.
So, as Africans, we have very little of our African culture. We don't really dress as Africans. We don't really eat as Africans. We don't even think as Africans. We think in English, but we're not from England. So in that sense, we're out of our mind, out of our culture. And this is one of the reasons why our master teacher has incarnated to give us back our culture. And one of the most important parts of what he's brought us is our language, the ancient language of Wu-nuwaupu, which is very important. We have classes here on the language of once a week, as well as the Wu-nuwaupic site, Wu-nuwaupic.com, which is very important for us to log on, learn our ancient tones, because that is very important. What you have to understand, or overstand, is that you are a being who came from your parents, right? They came together. You had 2 cells merged into 1 cell. That 1 cell had a specific genetic code that was encoded in the DNA, right? And from that 1 cell, based on the experiences that that cell had as it multiplied and diversified, it became different cells. Certain things in the DNA code were turned on, certain things were turned off. So it became a liver cell, bone cell, a skin cell, but it all came from 1 cell. Now, based on the experiences that you have, certain DNA will be turned on, certain DNA will be turned off. So as an African, if you do things that are not related to your African culture, certain things will not be turned on. That's why our doctrine is important. It's important for us to speak our language. It's important for us to live Wu-nuwaup. With that, I'd like to open the floor for any questions. Anybody have any questions? Don't all speak at once. Go ahead, young brother.
Oh, Buddhism you consider a
Buddhism. What? Yes. What it is that they follow the teachings of a man called Buddha, right? Who actually was, as the master teacher explained, he was more African than he was as a Hindu, as they adopted his teaching. He said, if you look at the statues, he said it looks like each of the knots on his head was screwed in one by one. Follow, but yes, their teachings are actually derived some of the teachings within Christianity. There are very parallel similarities into what the Buddhists teach and in what Christianity teach. But what the master teacher explained is that Christianity, you had at least 14 different Christ figures that were talked about in other cultures before the Christ story of 2,000 years ago. So from those different Christ stories, they made this composite character who they called Jesus Christ, right? And Buddha was one of those characters that they used in order to formulate this Christian story.
So, who would Buddha be considered a deity or just plain human?
But he would be considered a deity to those who ascribe to Buddhism, yes. Yeah, so again, he's a Christ-like figure that the Buddhists acknowledge his teachings. They look him as a deity of incarnation on the planet Earth. Yeah. Any other questions?
Okay, so when you said that we're all from Africa, I've heard that we were from all parts of the world.
What it is that we as African people are indigenous to every part of the world, meaning that we evolved in Africa and migrated to the different parts of the planet. Even before the planets were drifted apart, there was one landmass and called Pangaea, and that landmass we migrated some before the continental drift and even some after the continental drift. Especially here in America, where you have the beings who are known as the Olmec, who were descendants of beings who traveled here to America by way of the tides, and inhabit this land. That's one of the misconceptions about what they call Native Americans, that they have this Tonto-looking being who they say that all the Native Americans look like, but really most of the Native Americans were more African-looking, right? You had different beings who mixed in from the Hushin dynasty, who mixed in to create the native Tonto-looking beings, because they mixed in to get the lighter stock skin, they get the shovel teeth, as well as the hollow hair from the mixing in with the Chinese, who sailed here by way of the Pacific Ocean to the California side. They mixed in, migrated in, and mixed in that way. So, but we are indigenous to every part of the planet because we were here first, and all of the races eventually branched off from us. Some from intervention from abduction of our African seed. Different beings came to this planet, abducted, did experimentations and things of that nature, and created different races on the planet. Follow, but yes, we were indigenous to every part of the planet.
So how did we get here on the planet, like the first Black people? How did they get to us?
What we did what was called, you had life that evolved in the waters. All the life forms on the planet evolved from the waters, right? You had those beings that evolved from the waters onto land, right? As time passed, the beings eventually, even the master teacher explained, from different natural occurrences like tsunamis and things of that nature, which pushed beings further on into the land. And as these beings evolved, they evolved from water beings into land beings. He explained that we eventually, at first, we're beings who had a more of a greenish hue in our skin. As we evolved onto the land, the intake of things like oxygen, things like more salt in the diet and things of that nature caused our skin to turn from greenish to brownish. And we also had at that time different beings who came down. We evolved to what is called the Nuban, or the Tahites. And the Tahites being they also known as the Australopithecus, were the first or the prime beings on the planet, right? So when different beings came to this planet, they mixed in with that prime being because it was best suited for this living environment. So they mixed in to create different genetic stocks. You had your shorter beings who mixed in the tall heights, or who made a transformation from what is known as genus Homo to Homo erectus, right? And you had your shorter Homo erectus, and you also had a taller Homo erectus. And these different beings were some 6 ether, some 9 ether, and mixtures in between. And this is where those different beings get in, so you get more different genetic stocks from those beings coming in to the planet. So what we have because of religion, we have a misconception about life forms that come to the planet, where in religion you just classify all beings outside of this as angels, and in the religious sense. But just like the scriptures explain, or poorly explain, you had these beings were physical, and they weren't just one race. They didn't just come from one place called heaven. These are beings who come from different star systems, and they had a genetic makeup. Many had a genetic makeup which was similar to those of the beings that evolved. This is why your Genesis chapter 6 says that the sons of God came down unto the daughters of men and bore children. In order to do that, that is a physical act which would require the beings to have some kind of transfer of genetics. You follow? So this is what happened. These beings came down and abducted and literally took different beings as wives to create the different races of beings. Any other questions? Go ahead.
All right, I forgot to ask this question last time. I told myself I bet you don't forget this time. Okay, you know how we agree with one another with Kowloon, right?
Sure.
Okay, that means all is, right?
Sure.
And I know in the Upanishad, after it says all is, it says I am Anuki, right? Anuki, right? Why is it like? Why do we greet each other like that?
Well, that's an acknowledgement. You remember, our affirmation is just that. We affirm that we are a part of all, and all is a part of us.
Right.
Right? And we greet each other in that way, knowing that all is. Follow that we are still in that existence. It's still part of our affirmation.
Right.
Right? So we greet each other in that way. All is. For the common.
The thing that got me though was, why don't we say Anuki too? Why we leave I am off?
Well, it's just in greeting each other. It's just an acknowledgement.
It's an acknowledgement, okay.
It's just an
Ain't
acknowledgement.
no deeper than that.
All is.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, because what else is there?
Nothing. You know what I mean? It
You know,
is.
as the master teacher explained it, where would you get it, or where would you put it?
Right.
You know, so it's an acknowledgement, and also as an affirmation that all is. There's nothing else. All is.
Hey, 9 reasons to become a Wu-nuwaupian, right? The last one, number 9, when it says, well, it was just talking about, people. You know how you got a pure African, right?
Right.
And he makes his seed with a European.
Mhm.
And the new being that they create, the father is now the creator of that being, and the mother or either or, they're the creator of that new being, right? And he was using that comparison to extraterrestrials coming in and them being the creators of us.
Mhm.
Right, they coming in, and if those creators were women, they would be the creators of us, right? How do you get somebody to believe that? That's not a Wu-nuwaupian. How do you get somebody to just, take that in?
But you don't want them to believe it, first of all.
Right. I'm getting,
But-
yeah. Thanks.
So our job as Wu-nuwaupians is to convey the facts. Follow? And there's a reality that some people are not going to get it, or they may not get it by you.
Gotcha.
You follow? Because there are certain aspects where somebody might look at you like, I don't like the nigga glasses.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And that may block them from receiving the information. So, but you still have a job is to convey the facts. You follow me? And that's what you do. And then you do it because that, again, you may not be the means in which they get the information, because we as individuals don't convert anybody. The information does.
Right, that's right.
So it may be the way you conveyed it, you may have not conveyed it in a way that that individual can take it in, right?